start with the official record. 500 years, millions of pages. Joseon kept records of everything. What the king ate, what the weather was, who coughed in court. They did not write the word rice chest. Not once, not in any document. A king locked his son in a wooden box. The son died inside it. And every official account, every royal diary, every government record describes what happened with 3 words: strictly confined inside. That's not a description. That's a cover-up. So what are they hiding, and who ordered the silence? Let's find out. The first name in this case, King Yeongjo. The official record loves him. 52 years on the throne, tax reforms, flood prevention, public works. By the government's own account, the greatest king in Joseon history. That's what they wrote. That's what they wanted written. Here's what they wrote less about: what he was like when no one was watching. The second name, Crown Prince Sado, the king's only son, born 1735. At age 1, they took him from his mother, placed him in a separate wing of the palace. No explanation given in the record. From that point on, his father visited rarely, and when the king did come, the prince stuttered. He froze. Once, he collapsed entirely. The record calls this weakness. I call it something else. Here is a detail the history books tend to skip. After every visit to his son, the king washed his ears. He had the wash water thrown toward the prince's wing. He entered his son's quarters through unlucky gates, left through different ones, changed his clothes every time. This is not superstition. This is a father telling his son every single day through ritual and repetition, you are contamination. You are wrong. You do not belong here. Do that to a person for 10 years. See what happens next. The evidence appears in 1757. A court official, name recorded, fate unrecorded. After a certain date, nothing. No further mention. No dismissal notice. No pension. Just gone. The prince's wife later wrote a private memoir. It fills in what the record doesn't. Sado beheaded him and brought the head to show the court ladies. What followed, the memoir describes in careful detail. Over the next 5 years, more names disappear from the record. Servants, shamans, physicians, a concubine. The count, by his wife's account, over 100 people. All dead. All inside the palace walls. All quietly erased from official documentation. Modern psychiatrists who have studied this case, cross-referencing the memoir with the few surviving records, conclude the same thing. Bipolar disorder. Complex PTSD. Treatable today. In 1762, there was no name for it. There was no treatment. There was only the question of what to do with a crown prince who could not be controlled. Here is where the investigation takes an unexpected turn. Who finally forced the king's hand? Trace the timeline. The court factions are lobbying. The officials are filing reports. Everyone has a political motive. And then, a woman walks through the palace at night, alone, no attendants recorded. She goes directly to the king, his birth mother, not his wife, his mother, the woman who gave birth to him and had not been his parent since he was 1 year old. What she said to the king that night exists in only one account. His illness is beyond saving. Please act, for the sake of the dynasty, for the sake of his son. She was not asking for punishment. She was asking for termination. A mother, her child. If you are looking for the most disturbing document in this case, it is not the execution order. There was no execution order. It is the testimony that a mother asked a father to end her son's life, and the father agreed. The choice of method is where this case gets legally interesting. Joseon law had a problem. You could not formally execute a crown prince, not by sword, not by poison, not by verdict. If Sado were officially convicted, his son, 11 years old, would inherit the conviction, ineligible for the throne. The dynasty ends there. So the king needed something that was not an execution, something that left no official crime on record, something that did not technically violate the body. He chose a grain chest, placed in the open courtyard of the Royal Memorial Hall, the hall where his deceased queen's spirit tablet was enshrined. The choice of location is deliberate. By placing the punishment in a sacred space, the king was invoking the ancestors as co-signatories. This was not a father killing his son. This was a dynasty cleansing itself. The record would not need to say rice chest. The record would say strictly confined. And everyone who needed to understand would understand. July 4th, 1762, Gregorian calendar. Midsummer, drought conditions. The chests placed in direct sunlight. Stone courtyard, no shade. Estimated interior temperature, 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. No water permitted. No food. A grown man, unable to straighten his back, in a sealed wooden box in the July heat of Seoul. The physics of this are not complicated. Dehydration reaches critical failure within 3 to 4 days. Heat stroke begins immediately. Carbon dioxide accumulates with every breath. After 8 days in a curled position, the muscles lock. Day 1, guards reported sounds. Day 3, begging for water through the sealed lid. Day 5, the sounds faded. Day 8, July 12th, confirmed dead. When they opened the chest, the body had fixed in the fetal position. They had to break the bones to lay him flat for burial. That detail does not appear in the official record. It appears in his wife's memoir, written 33 years later, by a woman who stood outside the courtyard and could not go in, and could not speak, and had to watch. Now return to the documents. The veritable records of King Yeongjo. The official account of the day. He was strictly confined inside. The annals written years later by the dead prince's own son. He was placed in one object. One object. The Royal Secretariat Diary, the most granular daily record ever kept in Korean history. The relevant pages deleted, burned, at the request of the future king. The most powerful documentation apparatus in East Asia produced, for this event, 3 words and a euphemism. Everything we know about those 8 days comes from a single source, a woman's private memoir, written by someone with her own reasons to tell the story a certain way. Consider that. The only account we have is from the only person who needed the story to go in a particular direction. His wife began writing 33 years after his death. 4 memoirs, written over 10 years, each one more detailed than the last. She describes the courtyard, the heat, the lid closing, the sounds. Every historian who has studied this memoir notes the same thing. It is the most vivid account of the event we have. It is also written by someone whose family was directly implicated in the political events leading up to the death. The memoir argues, at length, that her family were innocent bystanders, the sole witness, an interested party. This is not a reason to dismiss her account. It is a reason to read it carefully, which is, perhaps, exactly what she intended. The 11-year-old boy who watched from inside the palace became king in 1776. On the day he took the throne, his first words, recorded in the official annals, were, "I am the son of Crown Prince Sado." Every account of this moment treats it as a declaration, a son claiming his father, a king announcing his lineage. Read the next sentence. Anyone who raises the matter of restoring my father's honor will be punished by law. He announced his father, then made it illegal to discuss his father. Within months, he ordered sections of the royal diary burned, the sections that documented his father's crimes. He commissioned a new official document, a curated account of his father's virtues, not his crimes, his virtues. Then he moved the tomb. Then he built the city, a fortress city around a grave. Hwasong Fortress, a walled city in what is now Suwon. UNESCO World Heritage Site, 1997. He could not rewrite the record entirely, but he could build something large enough that people would look at it instead. The engineers incorporated the most advanced techniques available, including Western concepts brought through China. The walls stretch for 6 kilometers, 48 distinct military structures. It took 2 years, 8 months, 70,000 laborers, for a tomb, a city as an act of love, or guilt, or both. The record is silent on which one. A prince who met his end inside a wooden box. Was he a victim, a man destroyed, step by step, by a father who turned his own child into something to be erased? Or was he a danger, a man who, when he could no longer contain what had been done to him, chose to let it out through 100 other people? History took a position. It burned the pages, built a city, and called the whole thing strictly confined inside. I don't have a verdict. I don't think the record does either. What I have is this: a wooden chest, 8 days, and a document that couldn't bring itself to write the words. This has been Korea Explained. The more you know Korea, the more you want to know.